Happy Shochu'sday, episode number 61, coming to you live from Japan. I'm in Tokyo, and Steven's in Fukuoka. And today is the Kasutori Shochu Day, right?
It is. That's right. We
It
had a
is.
new
That's what we're
episode.
talking about.
New episode
Okay.
of the podcast drop on Monday. We had a little technical difficulty in getting it out, but it's up in everybody's feed now. And we talk Kasutori Shochu. So we've covered all of the major styles save one. And we're going to hold off on that one because Christopher and I feel like we need to do a little bit more research before we talk about Soba Shochu. Because there's
Make
relatively
sure
few
you do it
makers.
justice.
Yeah, relatively few makers who make it, and we haven't actually seen the process in person. We've been to the distilleries off season, that sort of thing, but we've never actually seen soba shochu being made. So we're gonna hold off on that one. But Kasutori Shochu, which I was a big fan from the first time I heard of it. Just the concept of saving the rice solids and after sake production and reusing them, and then actually turning them into yet another thing after they become both Kasutori Shochu, but then they also become fertilizer for the rice harvest. So you got this really, really nice circle of life where you've made the sake from the rice, you've then pressed, taken the lees, re-fermented, distilled, extracted residual alcohol to make shochu, use that sake, I guess it's then shochu kasu, the Kasutori shochu lees, to make fertilizer, and then you plant your rice and get your fertilizer, and then you use that rice the next year and make sake again. So it's just a nice little closed loop of sustainability, which is pretty cool.
Right. Sorry, Steven, your audio is doing the same thing it seems to do at the beginning of every show. I don't know why.
Yeah. How did I solve it last time?
Weird echo going on. And I don't know why that happens every week, but it's always a couple of minutes in, and then it starts every time. And I don't know if that's a StreamYard issue. It probably is a StreamYard issue. StreamYard, what's up with that? Come on, you stupid
How's that?
duck. That's better.
Better?
Yep. There's
Yeah.
no echo or distortion.
So StreamYard does not like my Blue Yeti. I think that's what it comes down to. When I run through my headphone mics, it works fine. When I run through my
It's weird too, because at the
podcast
beginning
mic,
it's fine, and then it's always like
Sure.
30 seconds in, a minute in, and then it just goes sideways, and it gets increasingly worse and worse. So
I
don't
apologize to everyone for that.
It's
All right, I guess from now on, let's just remember, maybe put a note on my monitor here that says use your
we need to work out like a hand signal that like
Right.
when it gets bad, I'll just start going like this.
Sure.
All right. I don't know if that's a hand
Sorry about that,
signal
everybody.
or a facial expression, but
Yeah, let me start that over, I guess. Actually, Christopher, I don't know if you've ever noticed, there is a private chat between people in the studio. You could send me a message.
There is. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
We're still learning the system.
Still figuring it out.
So I don't know where I went, Gargamel, but you just have that nice circle of life, I think, with the fertilizer that you've created from the shochu leaves being used to fertilize the next year's rice harvest, that's used to make the next year's sake, that's used to make the Kasutori Shochu, that's used to make the fertilizer. So it's a good closed loop environmental system there, which I think is really, really cool. And I think you made a really good point on the podcast, which I think neither of us had really hit on mentally until we were doing the show. And not to steal the show's thunder, and everybody should go listen to it anyway, but the fact that there are probably more individual companies making Kasutori Shochu than any other style of shochu in Japan.
Oh yeah.
Because so many sake breweries all over the country distill their lees and sell Kasutori Shochu to the local community. They don't really push those brands. They don't market them or advertise them or sell them in Tokyo or anything, but they're making them and selling them locally. And that's pretty cool. You get all these really, really tiny releases, and a brand that we do talk about on the show is Shigemasu, which you and I both know and love. It's got a fair bit of reflection on the label because it's got so much gold on it.
It
But
is flashy.
Shigemasu is virtually impossible to find outside of Fukuoka, and they're a decent sized producer.
They are,
but their Kasutori shochu does not travel. And I guess I've seen it a couple. I feel like I might have seen it in an izakaya, like a single bottle in an izakaya in either Kumamoto or Kagoshima. So a little bit of it must travel south. But I've never seen it in Tokyo.
No.
Or Osaka.
I got it online. That was the only way I could find it.
Yeah, so it's a really, really cool product. And it's a beautiful, lovely, lovely nose. It's got all of that the ginjo quality, right? The Shigemasu is really just a really beautiful drink, and I love the way it sips on ice and with soda mizuwari. Like it's really flexible. Obviously, it probably doesn't play well hot because of those bright floral notes, but it's a good drink
if you warm it up. Yeah, it does. I mean, you can do it. You just have to do it very carefully.
Sure.
I tried once and then I gave up because I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to get the ratios right. I don't know how to get the temperature right, but it is lovely. This is a Yamada Nishiki product, right? Is it not? It doesn't say.
It just says.
Does it say?
The ginjo sake.
It is Yamada Nishiki.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yamada Nishiki o Shochu'sday kamoshita. Yep. Okay. So it's really good. It's really good. And tell us a little bit about how they go from people know about pressing the lees and getting softly getting the sake out of it, and then what do they do after that in order to turn that basically it's rice cake that still has some alcohol content left in it.
Yeah.
How do they go from that to a shochu?
Yeah, typically what's being done these days, I think, is, as far as I'm aware, at least here in Fukuoka and the different breweries I've visited that are making it, is they will rehydrate the lees. So they're basically going to add water, mix them back into a slurry, and then they're adding fresh koji rice and yeast. So they're basically starting another fermentation to try to extract more alcohol and also bring up, adding the new koji and yeast is going to give it a brighter character, where the lees might be a little bit tired if you just simply rehydrated and distilled that. And your yield would be pretty low. I think the lees have about 8% residual alcohol. I've seen that number thrown around. But if you rehydrate that, then you're probably down to like a low proof beer, right? Once you've added the water. So you've even further diluted that. So there's not much you'd be able to extract. So I think goosing the fermentation with more koji and yeast gives you higher yield as well. And it does give you the brighter character. Mm-hmm. But those are short fermentations. When I did this at Kitaya one year, they let me come down for a few days. And I think the entire fermentation was scheduled to run 3 or 4 days from the time that we
super short.
Yeah, we threw the lees into a holding tank, added water, added yeast, added more koji rice, stirred that up and let it run. And then what Jim actually mentions in the chat, I've never seen this style and I've only heard about it, is there's the microwave still that they use at Dasai, which is how they make their Kasutori shochu, which originally the Dasai Kasutori was really only available in Yamaguchi, but now you're seeing it everywhere. I think they've ramped up their production of sake so much in their new factory that they can now sell their Kasutori shochu nationwide as well. Still not easy to find, but you can find it. Mm-hmm. So, and that's higher proof, right? Isn't it?
But what's that?
Is that 39 or 40% alcohol? I think the Dasai is
I don't even remember. That's a great.
Yeah.
I've had it once, I think. I remember seeing it years ago in a bar, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll try that." And
yeah, I've either had it, I've either owned a bottle, or I still own a bottle. If I still own a bottle, it's either packed away here in this apartment, or it's in storage in New York. I'm not sure.
Jim just said it's 39%. So.
Yep. Yeah, that's a nice shochu too. I don't think it's quite, and I really should go back to it before say too much about it, but I think I don't know that it's quite as bright and fruity as the Shigemasu. But that could also be the alcohol percentage. It might get a little heavy and higher ABV. But it's a solid drink. I think it's worth trying. Yeah. So it's a style I really like. The only brand I know that's currently in the States is Nihon no Kokoro from Kitaya, which is actually essentially right down the street from Shigemasu. They're both in Yame here in Fukuoka. And Kitaya makes a lot of award-winning sake, and then they make a Daiginjo Kasutori Shochu they sell in the States. It's actually aged a minimum of 5 years before bottling. So that's worth looking for if you can find it in the States. I don't know. I know they're imported by Wines of Japan, and it's still on their website. When I was doing research for the podcast, I made sure that it's still available, but I just don't see it a lot of places. So I don't know how popular it is. I guess any shochu in the States isn't that popular.
Yeah, not yet.
Let's be honest.
Very true. Not yet. Still just it's an infant, really. I was searching for other bottles of Kasutori in my collection, and I came across this guy. This is called Hitagami, and it's made by a sake maker up in Miyagi, up in Isinomaki, fishing town right on the coast. And this one's 38% alcohol. I haven't had it. I drank a bunch of it, but I haven't had a sip of it in years because it's slender and unassuming, and it sits at the back of wherever in the home it's residing.
That is a pretty bottle. Nice form factor.
It is quite nice. It's almost like a grappa bottle, and
which is fitting.
One actually, it says on the back label that they actually don't restart the fermentation for this one.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
What's the nose like on it?
Almost afraid to open it again, but
is it a cork?
Yeah, it's a cork, and they put foil on the bottom wisely because this thing would have disintegrated by now. It's pretty light. Maybe I need to agitate it. There's a little bit of vanilla going on, which is interesting. And let's try that again. Okay, we got it properly sloshed around in there. Yeah, it's not nearly as bright as the Shigemasu is. It's got a much milder attack on the nose, and like I said, there is a little bit of vanilla. I'll need to retry this guy sometime soon. This is made by Hirako Shuzo. I should have said that before. Hirako, and they make a few good, pretty well regarded sake, I believe, by the same name, and they make this on the side, and it's very much like Steven said, when you go into a brewery, a sake brewery, and you're like, do you make any shochu? And they're like, yeah, I guess we do. Yeah, it's over there somewhere. And it's always like on a side shelf. There's a few bottles of it. They don't think about it at all. And it's very, very much an afterthought. And despite being an afterthought, it's really common to make a shochu. Not everybody, a lot of places have a tiny little still where they can pump out several liters of it every year. And that's about as far as anybody really cares to ponder it at many breweries.
Yeah. It reminded me the first time that I was consciously going to a sake brewery to see their shochu distilling. It was at Shigemasu, and I was visiting Fukuoka, and the visit had been arranged, and I was really excited because this is like I discovered this on one of my trips to Fukuoka, and then whenever I was visiting before I moved here, I would always look for it on shelves when I was in an izakaya, and because I just really enjoy it. And so I'm really excited to go to Shigemasu, and I get there and we get the whole grand tour, and it's huge brewery floor, like lots of storage tanks. They're there, they're steaming the rice, they're doing everything and all that, and we're just sort of wandering through, and he opens this literally like the door to a closet.
Yeah.
And that takes us into this tiny little back room where there's like 4 holding tanks and this tiny little still in the corner. The room was probably about the size of my New York City apartment.
Yeah, you're right.
Like
it's not big.
It's a very, very small room.
Yep.
Higher ceilings, fortunately, but and I was like, oh, so yeah, I guess this is sort of your waste disposal system. This isn't really your business, right?
Right.
But that's where it ties in nicely with grappa, you mentioned before, because that's made from wine lees. So you got a similar no
Yeah.
no waste thing
Right. Right.
going on
Right.
there.
Yep.
And I mean, rum originally was a lot of rum. Even today is still made from molasses, which is a sugar byproduct. So
Sure. Sure.
there's a
Yeah.
history
Good
of
point.
making spirits from these things. But yeah, Kasutori Shochu, I'm a fan. I think you you seemed when we talked about it early on, you seemed not quite as enamored with it as I am, and it's maybe it's just lack of access, or it
No,
just it
I
also
had
doesn't play well with
plenty
hot
of
water.
access to it. It was
Mhm.
before I was traveling to Kyushu all the time. I was going to a lot of sake breweries, and the lack of effort that was put into making Kasutori Shochu was very clear to me. They
Okay,
did not care about it. So
gotcha.
I tried it a bunch of times, and sometimes they hit they get it right, and then other
Hmm.
times it's just like, well, this is either really boring or it's all sorts of it's just there's no real shape to it at all.
Mm.
These notes are off the charts, and then these other notes that you probably want to be bigger are really muted. So there wasn't. It was an afterthought, and I think that
Yeah,
infected my view of the entire endeavor for many
yeah.
years. And then it wasn't until I started spending a lot more time down south in Kyushu, and then in northern Kyushu there were a bunch of places that were making it. I was like, well, this is not bad at all, and that
Hmm.
started to change my perception. I started to look for it a bit more, and like this, I remember. I haven't gone back to it, like I said, so it didn't blow me out of the water. But I do remember that the Hitakambi was nice, so
Hmm.
which is why I kept it, because probably I was thinking, well, I think I'll come back to this at some point. But
Sure, sure.
yeah,
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I guess Kyushu, northern Kyushu especially, is that really nice part of the country where high quality sake and high quality shochu production mix. And so even a company like Shigemasu, while they might not be specialists in making shochu and distillation themselves, they have friends and neighbors who are, right? So they can learn from them, and probably that's why their shochu is so expressive.
yeah,
is
yeah,
is learning from their neighbors. Where if you're a sake brewer in Miyagi or in Niigata or you know wherever else, you probably don't have access to high quality distillers in your neighborhood that can give you some advice over a couple of glasses at the local izakaya.
yeah. I think that's fair.
Hmm.
I'm just putting in. I wanted to add this to the chat so that people have these. Uh, they have. You can look them up.
Yeah,
I
coming.
I
Oh, that's
think,
a 38%. Nice.
yeah. I believe that I did that correctly. It is 38%. Okay.
Yeah,
Kind of
it,
going
it
off
looks
my
like it has
memory.
color to it. Is that just the?
No, I think. Well,
It's,
you're right. It does look like it has a little bit of a hue. I don't know what that's from, because it's not doesn't spend any time in a barrel at all.
yeah, but you did say vanilla. You're getting a little bit of vanilla. That made me wonder.
Definitely vanilla.
Interesting.
No idea. Maybe that's the cork disintegrating. But yeah, I
Nice.
have to go back to that. Try it. I just try it straight and then maybe cool it down a little bit. I don't want to really put
Hmm.
any rocks in it. I'll probably obliterate it. But yeah,
Sure.
it's something. It's a category that, or a subcategory of the shochu world, that probably deserves a little more respect. Although there aren't a lot of people out there clamoring for shochu drinkers' attention, which is
Sure.
which is
Sure.
interesting. And again, it goes back to the point that you made earlier. It's just not easy to make a whole lot of it. So any Kasutori shochu maker that is putting stuff out at volume would need to be making an absolute boatload of sake.
Hmm.
And if you're not doing that, then it's not worth really spending marketing dollars on. So we're
Sure.
talking about
Sure.
a very small number of makers who could potentially do that, and those are the big boys. I imagine, and I have no knowledge about this. Hakai-san probably has a couple of decent Kasutori Shochu, which I'm sure I tried at some point. I have not tried recently. I'm a little bit biased towards the southern islands, and that's a blind spot for me, absolutely. But if anybody is aware of a Kasutori Shochu from up north that deserves a look and a sip, then absolutely let us know, and we'll go out and find it. And
yeah, well, I've certainly had some of the Hakai-san Kasutori Shochu. They actually have 3 different expressions, and they were actually the first ones I ever tried. Were the Kasutori from Hakai-san.
Oh, okay. And Jim just made a recommendation, and this is an amazing brewery. Gokyo is. I ordered some of their unpasteurized Nihonshu last year after a recommendation, and I was very glad that I did. Gokyo is amazing. So it's not hard to imagine that their Kasutori Shochu, if they spend 2 minutes thinking about it before they distill it, probably is also amazing.
Yeah,
and Charles also chimed in with Izumibashi, so I need to check that one out. We got some homework now, Stephen. So
we do. Well, I'm always looking for new Kasutori Shochu.
Great,
I'm excited.
Love it. Thank you, guys. Well,
Jim's saying it's this Sanabori style for the Nishikikawa, so that's going to be a mouthful. Yeah, we might save that for a different Shochu'sday, maybe a different live stream. Talk about Sanabori. I feel like we gotta have some bottles out for that, and maybe do a tasting.
Taiwan on at 10 a.m. Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I guess you're going to be here next week or the week after? Next week, right?
I'm going to be down your way starting on, this coming weekend.
Yeah. So maybe next week we can do a tasting together. Maybe that's our plan for Wednesday morning.
Certainly possible. Yeah, and Maya just mentioned Shichida, which is also fantastic. I actually have had that one recently.
Yeah, and Shichida's fun. They make I guess it's Tenzan Brewery, right? Really, they make the Shichida brand, and they've got a whole line of sake that's imported to the States. And they also make Shichida branded shochu, and it's not just Kasutori, but it's also rice and barley that they make. So they've got a whole line of Shichida shochu, and the Kasutori is quite nice. Excellent choice there from Maya. Yeah. Good stuff. Nice. Okay, so next week is we found our theme for next week. It's Sanabori shochu. Maybe.
Okay, hold on. Let me write that down. Because I'm going to forget in T minus however long this podcast or this live stream goes, plus 5 minutes. So okay.
Yeah.
So I have to remember to program the next live stream, and I always forget to do it until the last minute. Except for this week, I programmed it way ahead of time.
You did.
And then still forgot what we were going to talk about until we went over it last night. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, getting some good recommendations in the chat for sure.
They keep on piling through, and I feel like I don't want too much homework, guys. Let's I might not come back to class because I'll feel guilty. Is there any booze in the news right now?
Oh, great question.
Booze news. I mean, I was just reading through the news, and the thing that seems to be that's going to continue to affect everyone is this damn pandemic, and and the pace at which we thought we were going to get back to normal, and now we're not getting back to normal, and the poop storm that is happening in various countries. I'm not going to name any names, but you know who you are. How's that going to affect things in Japan? And of course we're really excited to welcome people back here, but who knows? It's how much are they going to let people travel around? At what pace will sake and shochu and awamori tourism pick back up? And I thought it was going to be at the end of this year, and now maybe it's not. Who knows? We could be marching into the first half of next year before it's possible to get into Japan and not have to sit tight in a shoebox size hotel room for 2 weeks before being allowed to venture towards a booze producer. What just happened? It just flipped sides. How did that happen?
I can't hear.
You can't hear anything. What happened?
My audio is
Okay.
completely out. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You can hear me? I can't hear anything.
Okay, you might have to switch
This
your
is
cans.
hilarious. I was trying to do something with a tab, and I accidentally clicked on the. I'm using Firefox for this browser window, and when I clicked on the StreamYard, it muted it. It says muted in the tab now, but I don't see a way to unmute.
Ha.
That's
Okay,
wild.
well,
I think I might have to leave the studio and come back. So keep talking, Christopher.
okay. Let's see. What were we talking about? Oh, booze. Okay, well now I have the place to myself. This feels like the beginning of the former iteration of Shochu'sday, which was uh, on Instagram, the Instagram Live every week, and I would always start out by myself. Okay, you just re-entered the studio. Let's see if this works. Okay, he's back.
Sorry about that.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
We're back
I
to normal.
normally pull this window out to a separate window, and then I can browse as we're talking and find information. But
Uh-huh.
but this time when I went to click back in, this time it didn't work when I tried to pull it out because Firefox is being done this morning, I guess, and it ended up muting the StreamYard, and I couldn't hear anything you were saying. So
Okay.
that was
I don't know if I'm
interesting.
looking at the little buttons down here to see if there's any way to stop mic, stop camera. Can I stop your mic? Nope. Cannot. Oh, edit mic settings. I can edit your mic settings apparently.
Oh, that's wild.
I don't know what that means. I'm not going to touch it cuz I'll break
I
something.
should make sure that I've got the right audio set in. Yep, okay, I'm already in the
Sounds like
headphones.
it.
Good.
Sounds like it's the
Okay,
same as before. So anyway,
great. Yeah, so I completely missed your business, but your
well, it was I
pandemic,
was just talking about
et cetera, et cetera.
how the pandemic seems like it's going to prevent any tourism to Japan for maybe for the next few months anyway. We were hoping that it
Mm-hmm.
was going to kind of normalize a little bit is what we were
Yep.
hoping. We were hoping that people would be visiting sake breweries again and shochu and awamori distilleries again soon, and that there's no telling what the timeline is on that as the
Yeah, I
way
mean,
things stand right now.
who's got time to come and do 2 weeks of quarantine before they start their vacation,
I know. I know.
right?
I
I
know.
think, and they're not really even letting people in if they don't have a reason to be here. So
Yeah.
not great. I think I mean, yeah, that's definitely troublesome. Now, Japan is releasing their vaccine passport on Monday, right? So there seems to be movement toward normalization, but how long, if things move at the speed of Japan, it could be late fall, early spring before things start to open up again. And maybe it should. I mean, the Delta variant spreads pretty easily, and most people here are not vaccinated, and there's reason for caution. But
Absolutely.
it's not good news for the industry at all.
No.
We're in here in Fukuoka. I mean, we're not technically in a state of emergency, but restaurants still close at 8, and most of them don't serve. Their last call on drinks is 7. Right, so unless you're getting in at 5, you're not doing an izakaya sort of evening. You're kind of in and out if you're even bothering to going to a restaurant. So it's tough times for the bar and restaurant industry here, as it was elsewhere throughout the pandemic. I mean, they've never really gone into a full lockdown here in Japan, right? Which is a different strategy than was done in New York City and some other parts of the world. But yeah, no, that's not great news, but I guess it is news.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
I don't really.
other than that, I mean, I don't have any like new brand news or anything like that. It's kind of slightly quiet time right now because the sweet potato shochu season is going to kick in about a month.
Mm,
The distilleries are going to, because the beginning of the sweet potato harvest will start happening it's usually after Obon, but August is kind of the start month for distilleries that aren't using frozen sweet potatoes, and then it really kicks into full gear mid-September, and then that goes through, depending on the distillery, it goes through January. So we're about to see a whole bunch of fun stuff happening, but we're in that lull period. We've just gone through the blue bottle summer shochu months, or we're still in there, I suppose, and we're in the no man's land period just before it's summer vacation now. The kids are about to get out of school if they're not already, so that affects things too. It's kind of the quiet time, I guess.
I mean, we do these every week, and so it's hard to keep track of what we've talked about when we haven't. But
Very
did
true.
we talk about Komasa's release of the Konosuke, the first bottling?
I don't think we did.
Yeah, that's
Oh, okay.
old news, but it's news.
That's something.
Do you have a bottle of that?
I do.
Is it easier to find than my bottle? I don't.
So
I don't know where
Kanosuke,
mine is.
for the unfamiliar, is Komasa Jozo's very new whiskey distillery, and they have just released a 3-year-old, and it's the first time they've been able to smack a label on something that says whiskey. It's now old enough to be considered a whiskey. 50. How much was this? What percent? 50. Grr. I should remember this. It's like 58, or yeah, it is 58%, and it's a trip. It's a lot of fun.
Nice. I haven't tried it yet.
You haven't tried it?
Nope.
Okay.
Still in the box.
I had it for the first. I mean, I tried it before it was fully 3 years old. I'm sure it was a different barrel, but then I tried. I had a glass of it at Maya's place, Roku, down in Tenmonkan, and it was. It's fun.
Nice.
It's good. It's definitely worth it. Unfortunately, you can't find it now because it's
right.
Well, you probably can.
Pretty.
There are probably some bottles kicking around, especially on the
There
secondary
may be.
market.
I've been poking in the liquor stores all over the city, and I haven't found any.
You haven't seen it?
No, I've got one, but I didn't. It came from the distillery, not from not from a local bottle shop. But I'll keep my eyes peeled. You never know when somebody got an allocation and didn't know what to do with it. Like happened to me in what has it got on there?
It just says first edition, 2021.
First edition.
Yeah,
Nice.
from the Kanosuke distillery. So they're gonna be fun. They're gonna be really fun to watch. As we've said a million times before, you've got a whiskey distillery that has generations of experience focusing on the quality of the fermentation, and I think that's something that's often lost on a lot of whiskey. It's all about the casks, right? But we've got this added value here of a crew who understands making a really expressive fermentation as well. So I think that can only mean good things for the end product. So it'll be interesting to see where Kanosuke takes this, and where some of their like-minded friends around Kyushu. There's so many new whiskey distilleries opening up here, there, and everywhere else, and I think there's going to be a lot to write home about very shortly.
I think you're right. I did get them into my book because I was actually finishing up the book just as they were about to open. And so on page 103, let's see if I can do this right. Where's the camera? There we go.
103.
So those pictures are actually taken at the distillery before they started production. So they had gotten the stills installed, all the equipment was in place, but they hadn't actually started making whiskey when I visited. It's a really, really beautiful place, and they do have a nice tasting room and that sort of thing. So if you have a chance when you're in Kagoshima, go visit the Kanosuke distillery. And it's right next to the Komasa Shochu distillery where they make Melud Kozuru. Right? Their barrel-aged rice shochu that claims to be the first ever
I happen to have a bottle
barrel-aged shochu.
Yep.
Oh yeah, is that the 25%? Because they've got a
This is the
heavier
25.
one, I think. Yep. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, so I guess that was some old news, but important for us to talk about was the
That is
new
important, yeah,
Konosuke.
and
And
we can't believe we missed that.
Mac at Kampai Planet has done a review of it on his YouTube channel, so definitely worth checking out. If you don't already subscribe to Kampai Planet on YouTube, you really should, because he's putting out really good content on Japanese drinks. So
Absolutely. So
cool.
how about this newly opened?
Ah, man, what's my newly opened?
What is newly
And that's the other thing
opened?
is like, well, what did I talk about last week? I'm always.
Sure.
Did I talk about this last time? I don't think I did.
No.
Sato no
You
Akebono. The
not
only
on not
reason
on
only reason I bring this up, I mean, this is a main mass market brand from Machida in Amami. It's Kokuto Shochu, vacuum distilled black koji. This one. The reason I bought it was on sale. This was in the
I
local
don't know if people can
drugstore.
see that. How much is it?
Yeah,
Read the
this was
can you tell us?
646 yen for 900 ml
646 yen for
of
900
Honkaku Shochu.
milliliters of shochu. That's
That's about
and you bought it
$6
where? At a drugstore
at
or
a
something?
drugstore. It was on their. It was in their discount shelf at 40% off. So I got this,
That's
and I got
they're
a
basically selling it at cost. Or they
probably
might even
below
be, they're
cost.
probably losing money on it. More than it.
But it's a distilled spirit. Why are they even discounting it? Just leave it on the
Yeah,
shelf
why
until
would you
somebody
not?
comes along and buys it. Right?
Jeez.
So I got that 900 ml of Sato no Akebono, and then I got a 1 cup shochu for 74 cents. 25% alcohol. Oh no, it was a Maiwari, so it was a 13% alcohol barley shochu from here in Fukuoka for 74 yen. Less than a bottle of water.
Lunch in a bucket. There you go.
Yeah. I got one other thing, but I'll save that for another newly opened once I open it. So I think I spent less than 1,500 yen and got I got 2 liters of shochu for less than
efficient
$15.
shopping.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what is recently opened, and I can't think of anything that I haven't talked about recently that I opened within the last week, other than this is not shochu. This is a spring water. This is probably one of the most famous types of spring water from Kagoshima. It's made over on the east side of Sakurajima volcano. It's called Zaiho. They claim that this was ranked the #1 spring water in Japan for like 15 years in a row or something like that. And I have been, of course, mixing it in with my oyuwari, and I've been just drinking it as is, and it good. It's actually really good. So
Nice.
I understand why they can sell so much of this, and you can buy it I'm not happy that I'm consuming PET bottles or these plastic bottles. I'm thinking about switching to they sell it in like 22-liter bag in a box, and I
Oh,
might
no
switch
kidding.
to that. But it's like when you drink it just as is, it's like, oh wow, that's really satisfying.
Huh.
And I don't know exactly what it is, but it's good.
Yeah.
So
Nice,
yeah,
nice.
Zaiho. Anyways, maybe I think you'll be hearing me talk about this as I. How did you do that? You switched it again.
Yeah, I switched it because Maya's asking to see your T-shirt, and the newly opened is masking your T-shirt. So
I
sorry,
see.
Maya. I know that it made you uncomfortable when we switched sides, but
Yeah, this is it's a kara kara. It's from Maya wants to know. She says, what does she say? She says, "Is that a kara kara on your shirt?" Yes, it is. This is a shirt from a place that Steven and I have both been down in
yeah,
Naha in Okinawa, and it's called does it have the name? Yeah, kara kara to Chibugwa
yeah.
is the name of the
Yeah, he
place.
gave us
A great izakaya.
we sort of rolled in there as a Nijikai or Sanjikai and ended up giving us T-shirts.
Oh, we paid for them. We paid for them.
Oh, did we? Yeah, that was pretty late in the night. I don't remember
You
paying for
rolled
them.
in there as a Sanjikai. For me, that was the first stop. Yeah, but this is one of my favorite places to go and eat and drink when I'm in Naha. Just they really know Awamori there, and they have a fantastic selection. So if you're ever down there, hit me up. I'll give you the pin for the place. And
Sure,
unfortunately,
sure.
I think they've been closed for large swaths of the last year due to Okinawa
Hmm.
having a really rough go of things with Corona. They never seem to be very far from the next shutdown, and
Sure,
their
sure,
shutdowns are a little bit more draconian than what we experience up here in Tokyo, if you can call what we do up here a shutdown or a lockdown.
sure. If we're
But
showing off
anyways, yeah.
T-shirts, I've got my Koji-Con T-shirt
Oh,
on.
the Koji T-shirt. That's a nice. I
Yeah,
have that one too.
yeah.
We could have twinned today, but I guess it's probably good that we
Could
didn't.
I figured Koji was a good T-shirt to wear for a Kasutori Shochu episode, since that's sort of the star of the show.
Good call. Absolutely.
So
And as
yeah.
these things go, I- they don't. Kasutori Shochu is not made in Okinawa generally, just because they don't make sake down there.
Yep.
It's a bit too hot to be doing that safely, and anytime you, as people who understand Nihonshu will understand, even before I say it, it's hard, very hard to make a safe fermentation with yellow koji in a super hot and humid environment. It's quite
Hmm.
risky. So you would need
Sure.
extreme temperature control, and that's not something that a lot of distilleries down there have. They tend to be
Yep.
very open to the elements, and
If they've got
there's a
cement
lot.
floors, they're happy, right?
Exactly.
Some of those
Yep.
breweries, some of those
That's an
distilleries.
upgrade.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just want to get back to your newly opened, because I think this is really telling for people that don't live in Japan or haven't spent a lot of time here, but how important water is in Japan, right? I think for a lot of Westerners, it's kind of an afterthought. Your local tap water either tastes good or it doesn't. When I say tastes good, it doesn't taste of chlorine, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we don't really think about what's the provenance of a lot of the bottled water that we drink in the States, for example, right? Maybe in Europe, they take it more seriously. I know Evian is from a specific place, and some of the other European waters might be, but a lot of US water, they might have a story about where that water's from, but who knows, right? And most
Mm-hmm.
people don't care. But in Japan, water source is really important, right? They're ranked, they're revered. You'll be in a neighborhood or in a community with really good water, and there will be a public spigot where people bring their huge plastic bottles, even larger than the ones that you've got there, and filling them up to drink at home, right?
Yeah. We
And it's
actually do
just
have a similar thing where I'm from, but that's not
yeah,
surprising
that's
because
right.
I'm from the hills.
That's right. But it's at least for city folk, I think that's not something that we really think too much about. And in Japan, it's taken very, very seriously. And it also speaks to just how seriously you take your oiwari, that you want to drink Kagoshima shochu with Kagoshima spring water,
Yep,
right? Now,
that's true.
when I start making ice from Kagoshima spring water, that's when you'll know I've reached your level of geekdom.
I am quite serious about the water that I use, and I do have, of course, filtered water coming out of we have a filtered water tap in the kitchen
Yeah.
that makes sure to keep that filter fresh and
Hmm.
renew it
Hmm.
as often as we are told to, which is probably more often than necessary. But yeah, I'm definitely sensitive to the minerality, or if it's treated water, municipal water. I'm very sensitive to that. I
Hmm.
hate the ice cubes that we make in the fridge. Like, it's not even worth using them,
Hmm.
because they just taste odd, and to me it's so easy
Interesting.
to pick that stuff up.
Do you
So
not? Do you not? um, I've been to your place, but I don't remember your ice situation. Do you not have the filtered water going to make the ice?
I do use it, but you know making I think most refrigerators that make ice, they you're just getting so many other aromas in there that get into the inner
Ah,
workings of the thing, and I just pick that up. And so I do the same
yeah,
thing that you do when you're at a hotel. You go to the konbini and you buy the ice there, ice in a bag, and that stuff's good. It's
that's
way
really good.
better than the
Yeah.
stuff I can make at home.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, but it's so easy to screw up the ice. It just soaks in so much of what's happening around it, whether it's from the plastic of the tray or I don't know. I'm a little too sensitive to these things.
Sure, sure. No,
But
no, it makes sense though. And the ice, I'll still use the ice from my refrigerator, but I make sure that it's fresh. I throw out the old stuff when it starts to.
probably your fridge must be better at that than mine.
It's
I need
it's
a
newer at least.
probably that's part of it.
Yeah. Um, that's but that's interesting. I didn't really think about water in all of this alcohol production stuff until I started working at Yamato Zakura. And it was basically the first day Takana explained that this water is for making and this water is for washing, right? So he was using municipal water to wash all the equipment and to, hose down the floors and that sort of thing. And then he was using the spring water for anything that was actually going to end up touching the shochu, right? So all of the fermentations, that sort of thing, was always using the spring water, and that spring water is absolutely delicious. It's really, really,
Right.
so nice to drink that. Much rather drink that than the municipal water in Ichiki Kushiki.
Every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just if you happen to live in an area near a brewery or a distillery, just go ask if you can fill some jugs of their strike water and drink that at home instead, because it's a big difference. So okay, this has been a good one.
Cool.
We've gone past our 45-minute goal again.
Yeah.
And we started by talking about Kasutori, but if you are out there and you want to learn more about Kasutori Shochu, then go to japandistilled.com and listen to, what was it, episode 16 or something? 17? 17 maybe?
17.
Yes, shows you how long it's been since I was checking the website, but
that's 17.
Hopefully, a couple of people have said that it was an enjoyable episode, so take their word for it, not ours. And we'll be back again soon. Next week, we're going to talk about Sanabori Shochu. I wrote it down. I had already forgotten.
You did.
And Steven has some experience with making that, so we'll be able to tap into his experience. It should be an interesting episode, and we'll try and make sure that we have bottles of it to crack open and talk about at that time. So I'll be down in Kyushu then, so we'll have a different backdrop. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, everybody, and we'll be back next week.
Stay happy, stay healthy. From both of us here in Japan to all of you around the world, a very hearty and heartfelt kanpai.